with CNBC Africa's coverage of Budget 2015, and we're still discussing South African Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene's budget speech from a business perspective. Matsi, you were saying to me during the break that let's not be too harsh, let's at least recognize where there is some positivity, and the small business front, the red tape bureaucracy, you see a green light there.
I definitely do. I mean, my colleagues in the studio have been talking about an ideological constraint. A real constraint is red tape. We've been singing and going, saying that there's too much red tape that inhibits progress within small businesses succeeding. However, the minister spoke very progressively about going digital. How do we have a centralized supplier database? That's very progressive. I don't have to go from department to department to be, enable myself to be able to procure to the government. It's now centralized. The e-tendering, I mean, there's no longer wastage of, killing poor trees and, printing out the tender gazette. Now it's going to be centralized. It's going to be going digital, which is essentially where we have to be going digital.
Terence, before we leave things from the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, when I think of chartered accountants, I think of what Matsi just said about red tape. When you have a look at the budget today, is there a removal of red tape? Is your job as an institution going to be made easier? Are they removing the barriers to the job that you do every single day?
Yeah. No indication of any removal of red tape as such, but a clear intent to bring about efficiencies. And all we need to do then as the professionals is to say, where do we come in to provide the skill set, to provide the capacity, to provide the support that will then partner with government to make things happen a lot more easier, a lot more better, and not removing the red tape, because government is about bureaucracy. But you just need to be efficient and quick in the way in which you make decisions. And have the skill set that will actually make sure that you can make decisions on credible information.
Just to maybe just stay with you, Terence, very briefly, and to take the conversation back to the municipal level, do you get a sense that the minister galvanized some degree of confidence in public service delivery? There was a healthy cutting up of the pie in terms of education, health, and other focus areas. But do you think in terms of the skills to deliver on the back of those budgets that municipalities are on a strong footing?
Should I come in?
Yeah, come in on this one, because this is very, very important.
Yeah. The reality with municipalities is that they do need an injection of strength when it comes to professionals, whether it's on engineering space or accounting space or financial space or environmental space and all the other issues that the municipalities are dealing with. That's one issue we need to recognize. And once we recognize that, this is where the professional bodies in totality, both accountants and engineers, have got to work with government in a synchronized way to support that capacity. Whether they work as consultants or whether they work as employees. But government must be able to attract those skills.
Let's talk about another side of the equation here, which we haven't really focused on that much. We've talked about collection and the efficiency of collection. We haven't talked much about the spend. Edward, what about the spending side of things? Because this is absolutely crucial.
I think, and for me, I think that's where the debate needs to be amplified. Lindsay, for me, we forget that 1 out of every 5 rand we spend in government, we spend on education. I mean, that is an inordinate amount of money we spend on education.
Is it well spent?
Probably one of the highest per capita. The question is, notwithstanding the fact that we have a significant backlog to redress, both infrastructure, human capital, teaching, the ability and quality of teachers and principals, we have a significant backlog, and one has to acknowledge and affirm that. But at the same time, we are falling behind in not producing the only sustainable resource which will give us competitive advantage, our people. And so for me, it is not the amount of money we're spending, it is what we are getting for that money. Still too many school leavers are unemployable. And those who are going on to university cannot do maths and science and the technologies and engineering sciences where we spoke about beneficiating our mineral resources. For that you need the hard sciences. On the health side, a better story. I think you know, for those of us who live in the more first world, we tend to lose track of child mortality. And to have seen the marked improvement in infant mortality over the last number of years is something to be applauded. To see the improved access to healthcare, particularly for antenatal services, has to be applauded. To see the reach of antiretroviral to 3 million, these are positive trends. And I think we have to applaud that and continue to make the advance. 12% of the expenditure to healthcare, I think, is right. And then in terms of social grant, whilst it's necessary to keep that as a lifeline for many people who are unemployed and not able to find employment, we cannot continue to extend the burden on the state for social grants at some point in time.
Let's take this back to Jobo, because I know Nozipho wants to say something. I mean, it's no accident then, Nozipho, that Curo Holdings on the JSE is doing so well, because it's got 36,000 learners, 42 campuses, because maybe we're falling back in education, so must do better with education, doing well with healthcare to a certain extent.
Absolutely, Lindsay, and I want to stay with those two particular issues and to pose the question to Edward again. And maybe, Edward, if we just look at the commitment to supporting previously disadvantaged students to go through tertiary education, we heard the Finance Minister recommitting the financial injection that will be coming in the way of NSFAS, or the National Student Financial Aid. My question here is, are we spending the money the right way? We've seen increases in access and equity, but these students aren't graduating, and so the system or the funding model seems to be unsustainable, because those loans are actually not being repaid. And I think we're not thinking about the problem the right way, and perhaps to get your comment on that. But also, very quickly, on the health front, were you expecting anything on the national health insurance, and was the absence thereof something of concern to you?
I think, first of all, on the education side, I do have a concern about the money we spend at tertiary levels as well. We have competing institutions, further education, training colleges, we have universities, we have technicons, and quite frankly, they're competing with each other, whereas there should be greater clarity around which area of the need in our labor force they attend. We have universities and technicons competing with each other. So I think we do have to have a hard call. And then I think we need to amplify and accelerate the investment in vocational training, in apprenticeships, because that gives people hardcore skills that makes them employable, whereas a 3-year university degree hardly makes you employable in the kind of need where we need to grow our economy. On the part of health, I think we have seen a significant improvement. Some of the state hospitals, the oncology unit in Grootersdorp, for example, is world-class. Some of the facilities at the hospitals in Johannesburg is world-class. But I do think that in terms of the demand, the need, we need to improve the access by an accelerated distribution of these health services, and also in terms of hospital management and patient care. I think, again, the rate at which we are addressing those needs, whilst we have made significant improvement, still leaves healthcare unaffordable, private healthcare unaffordable. But because of the lack of the accelerated matching of supply and demand on the public healthcare system, it keeps the private healthcare system not only vibrant, but it also creates the opportunity for that to have higher inflation, and eventually we pay twice. We pay through the tax bill for public health institutions that cannot serve the needs of all South Africans, and secondly, we pay for private healthcare because of the huge gap that is left after we have even done the brilliant efforts, the valiant efforts that we have in public healthcare.
Do you want to embellish that at all, Terence, what you're saying there? Well, I'm talking about the education thing because this is the long term. There's an island in the middle of the Pacific called Pitcairn Island, which is apparently owned by the British Isles. You can go there, and they want people to go there. I can have 10 degrees and go there and won't get a job. There's no point in having a great education system if the fiscal policy of the government doesn't create the jobs for people with the qualifications, and the Department of Home Affairs doesn't open up the market for skills to come in. This is something that the budget doesn't really address. This is a longer term issue.
I would not have had expectations for the budget to be explicit on that. And that's why in my remarks I said it's up to us as professionals, up to us as informed citizens to say where do we then hook onto this statement and make things happen. Within SAICA, for instance, we have got programs that are clearly emphasizing the point Edward made of mathematics of schools. Because without mathematics, the choices of good subjects will be unreachable for these kids. And working with engineers, working with actuaries and major disciplines to make this happen. Because we can't compete on this, we've got to work together. And the second issue that's important is a focus program, which is called Tutuka program, that is assisting the previously disadvantaged children to have a good chance of succeeding once they've chosen the right occupations. And the engineers gladly have replicated that kind of program. And through the Human Resource Development Council, if all the major disciplines can adopt something similar to what we've done with engineers, we could really respond to the issues we're making.
Nozipho, a positive note.
Positive note, no doubt, but also not much being said on the minimum youth wage, which of course is a big issue that I'm sure the unions and other parties were looking to listen to. Maybe let's get Gerhard and Matsi's view on that. The key issue here being one, what the value of that wage would be and the kind of impact whether this will have on business. I didn't hear it, did you?
On the youth, so-called youth wage. Well, we still don't know whether it's really having a really positive impact. We still don't know that. We were one of those organizations that were never in favor of that. We must restructure a lot of things to invite business, create jobs, make it possible for businesses to employ people, make it easier. Whilst we're not doing this, we are giving money on this side to entice employers into employing. But if you don't create that environment, they're not going to employ. And we sit with a huge youth unemployment problem. We're talking about 50%. And so no, I didn't actually hear anything about that. I think government might be losing enthusiasm about it because it's not really being used.
Let's wrap up this segment of the show before the break now with Terence and Edward in Cape Town. Terence, very, very quickly, almost a one-word answer here. Good, bad, indifferent, proud, not proud of what happened today?
I'm very proud as the Institute because
it gives us that's all I need to know. Very proud. Well done. Edward?
I think the Minister did well. 3 things. There's intent, there's planning, there's execution. 10 out of 10 on intent, 5 out of 10 on planning, and we're falling short on execution.
Edward, thanks so much for your time this evening. There's Edward Kieswetter, who is the CEO of Alexander Forbes, which is a financial institution, and also the CEO of SAICA was with us this evening, Terence Nombembe. Back to you in Johannesburg, Nozipho.
Absolutely. Let's pick up again, Matsi, if we will, just on the employment creation part of the conversation, and also maybe borrowing from your insight and industry expertise around working with entrepreneurs. Do you walk away from this excited that we're going to be able to deliver on the jobs that we need?
Well, as my colleague said in Cape Town, the intent is there, which is very key. If you have political will, then the rest should be able to follow suit. However, the efficiency and our ability to deliver is, something worth questioning. And how do we, as civil society organizations or, South Africans, how do we help the government deliver? What I didn't hear is on the amendment of the BBEE codes, because there's a strong emphasis on complying of big companies. That is one way of how corporate South Africa can contribute towards developing small businesses via enterprise and supply development, preferential procurement, and anything of that. And now that it's taking place and kicking in on the 1st of May, who's going to police that process? Because we implemented it in 2007. Yeah. It's now 2015, we're amending it. Now what's next? Is it going to be the same cycle, or is there somebody who's going to take charge and ensure that it does benefit small businesses?
So it certainly sounds like it's not only about what the minister spoke about, but it's also reading in between the lines and picking up on those elements that didn't make it onto his 26-page speech. Let's take a short break, but we'll be right back with Matsi and Gerhard to continue the conversation.